For generations, families believed one simple root could keep their drinking water safe. But what if that trusted tradition was hiding a dangerous mistake? Every spring, Amish families repeated the same ritual, convinced it protected their wells. The water looked cleaner, but appearances can be deceiving. When the water was finally tested, the real danger wasn't what anyone expected. The truth changed how one Amish family cared for their well forever. Now, I want to tell you about a thing my dad did every spring for near on 20 years, and it wasn't until I was a grown man with children of my own that I found out it never worked at all. It's the horseradish root. Maybe you've heard of it. Maybe your own grandfather did the same thing, or his did. You take a good fibrous piece of horseradish root. You scrub it, you score the skin a little with a knife so it breathes better. That's what we always said, breathes. And you tie it to a stone or a bit of lead sinker, and you lower it down into the cistern. Down into the dark, down past where the bucket rope goes taut, down to where the water sits still and cold and waiting. And the belief was that root would clean the water, neutralize the sulfur smell, settle the sediment, keep the whole cistern sweet and pure all summer long. No chemicals, no machinery, nothing but a root and a piece of string. I believed it too for a long while. I want to tell you honestly how we came to stop. If you've never lived on a well, you might not know that sulfur smell. Rotten egg, some call it. Others just call it well water smell, like it's a normal thing water is supposed to have. The way creek water has a green smell and rain has almost no smell at all. Our cistern was stone-lined, dug by my great-grandfather's generation, maybe 40 foot down to where the water table sat. And some years, especially in late summer when things ran low, that smell would come up strong. You'd pump a bucket, and it'd hit you before the bucket even cleared the well house door. Mommy Esther used to say a cistern was like a person. It had good days and bad days, and you didn't scold it. You just tended it gentle and it come around. She wasn't a scientific woman. None of us were, not back then. We didn't have the words for coliform or hydrogen sulfide or biofilm. We just had what we'd been handed down, generation to generation, a bundle of habits that felt like knowledge because they were old and because everybody around us did the same thing. The horseradish root was one of those habits. So was hanging a copper penny in the milk to keep it from souring quick. That's a whole other story, and that one didn't work either, though it does a little something to slow bacteria, just not near enough to matter. But the root was supposed to be the real medicine. The forgotten remedy. The thing our people knew that the English didn't. Dad explained it to me like this, when I was maybe 9 or 10 and old enough to help lower the root down myself. He said horseradish has a strong bite to it. You know this, if you've ever grated fresh root and had it clear your sinuses out in one breath, and that bite, that sharpness, was some kind of natural cleaning agent. He said it would eat the sulfur and pull the dirt down. He said, our family had done this since before the family come over from Switzerland, and it had never once failed us. And here's the thing, it seemed to work. Every spring we'd drop a fresh root, and every spring, sure enough, the water would run clearer through summer than it had the fall before. We had testimony to it. Neighbors did the same thing and told the same stories. An old widow 2 farms over swore her cistern water was sweeter than the English families down the road who had one of them electric filter systems installed. We had generations of people all agreeing on the same thing. That's a powerful kind of proof, when you're a child, or even when you're a grown man who ain't stopped to question it. Everybody around you saying the same thing, decade after decade. That feels like knowledge. It feels like science, even though it isn't. It was maybe 12 years back, when my own boy Samuel was small, that a county health worker come around our district. This was after some families 2 townships over got real sick, bad stomach sickness, a few children hospitalized, and it traced back to well water. Not sulfur smell. Bacteria. E. coli, they said, from runoff getting into a cracked cistern wall. That scared a lot of families in our community, mine included. And this health worker, an English woman, patient and not condescending about it at all, she come and offered to test wells for free. Ours included. I remember standing at the well house while she took her sample, and I told her, kind of proud, about the horseradish root. Told her it kept our water sweet. She was gentle about it. She said the root probably didn't hurt anything, but it wasn't doing what we thought it was doing. She explained that the smell, the sulfur smell, comes from bacteria that feed on sulfate in groundwater, and that smell has got nothing to do with whether water is safe or not. Some of the worst contaminated water she'd tested had no smell at all. Some perfectly safe water smelled terrible because of naturally occurring minerals that never hurt anybody. Smell was not a reliable sign of safety in either direction. And the sediment settling, she said, that happens on its own, over time, with any still water, root or no root. Sediment is heavier than water. It falls. It would have settled just the same with a stone down there, or with nothing down there at all. As for the antimicrobial idea, she didn't say it was pure nonsense. She was careful there too. She said horseradish root does have some natural compounds that can act against certain microbes, in a laboratory, in a concentrated way. But a single root, sitting in 40 feet of cistern water, diluted down to almost nothing, wasn't delivering anything close to what would matter for a whole water supply. It was, she said, a little bit of a real thing, stretched a whole lot further than it can really go. That phrase stuck with me. A little bit of a real thing, stretched a whole lot further than it can really go. I think that's most of what we call folk remedies, if I'm honest. Our results came back about 10 days later. I won't pretend I wasn't nervous waiting on them. Ours came back mostly fine. Some hardness, a touch higher iron content than she'd like, nothing dangerous. But she pointed out something I hadn't thought to ask about. Our cistern had a small crack near the top course of stone, right where the collar met the ground, and surface water was getting in after heavy rain. Not enough to make anybody sick that year, but enough that, given a wet enough season or a dead animal decomposing near that crack, we could have had a real problem and never known it, not from smell, not from taste, not from the root doing its work or not doing it. That's the part that stayed with me longest. We'd spent 20-30 years watching a root and calling that vigilance. Real vigilance would have been checking the cistern walls for cracks. Real vigilance would have been testing the water itself instead of trusting our noses. I've thought on this a lot since, why a thing that didn't work could feel so true for so long. Part of it is that water changes on its own, season to season, whether you do anything or not. Rain dilutes a well. Dry spells concentrate it. If you drop your root in spring, right when snowmelt is flushing the system anyway, of course the water gets better after. You've just lined up your ritual with something that was going to happen regardless. Part of it is we wanted it to be true. It's a comforting thing, to believe the land provides its own solutions. That God put a root in the garden that answers a problem in the well. There's a real dignity in that idea, and I don't want to mock anybody who believed it, because I believed it same as they did, same as my dad and his dad. And part of it, plain and simple, is that nobody was checking. Nobody was testing water before and after with any real instrument. We were comparing memory to memory, a taste from last week against a taste from this week, filtered through whatever mood we were in and whatever we expected to find. That's not measurement. That's storytelling, dressed up to look like observation. I want to be honest about what changed in our house, because I think the honesty matters more than the old story ever did. We still have the same stone cistern. We didn't tear it out or modernize everything overnight. That's not how change comes to a family like mine, and I don't pretend it should. But we do a few things different now. We have the cistern walls checked regular for cracks, especially at the collar and any seam where old mortar might have given way. That crack the health worker found, we had a mason from our own community repair it proper, packed and sealed the way it should have been done years before. We test the water. Not constantly, not with worry, but on a regular schedule, and any time there's been heavy flooding or anything that might have disturbed the ground around the well. A basic bacteria test isn't expensive, and it isn't complicated. Some of the younger families in our district now do it themselves with test kits from the local co-op and share the results with each other, the same way we used to share root-dropping tips. And when there is a real problem, bacteria, or something in the water that shouldn't be, we treat it the way it actually needs treating. Sometimes that's shock chlorination of the well, done carefully and flushed out proper before anybody drinks from it again. Sometimes it's a mechanical filter for sediment or iron. Sometimes it's just fixing the physical well itself, same as we should have done with that crack years sooner. None of that is romantic. I'll grant you that. There's no story and we had the well tested and it was fine. But there's peace in it. Real peace. Not the kind you talk yourself into because a root has been in your family for 4 generations. If a young couple in our community come to me now, starting out on their own well, I wouldn't tell them the horseradish trick is evil or foolish. I'd tell them it's harmless enough if they want to keep doing it out of tradition, out of feeling close to their grandparents' ways. There's no shame in a bit of ritual, so long as you know it for what it is. But I would tell them plain, that root is not your safety. Your safety is knowing your well, knowing where the water table sits, knowing the condition of your cistern walls, knowing what's upstream and uphill from your water source, and testing, actually testing, rather than trusting a smell or a taste or a story passed down from a time when nobody had any better way to check. I think that's the real lesson underneath all this, and it goes further than well water. We hold on to old remedies not because they were ever proven, but because they were handed to us by people we loved and trusted, and questioning the remedy can feel like questioning the person. I loved my dade. I trusted him completely, and he was wrong about the root, same as his dade before him, and none of that makes any of them foolish men. It just means they never had the chance to check. We have that chance now. I think we owe it to our own children to use it, even when it means setting down a story that felt like part of who we are. So that's the truth of the horseradish root, as best as I've come to understand it. It's not a secret cleanser. It's not some forgotten Amish science that outperforms a filter. It's an old habit that felt true because we wanted it to be, and because nobody was measuring close enough to catch the difference. What actually keeps a family's water safe is a lot less romantic. It's checking your cistern for cracks. It's testing regular, especially after a hard rain. It's fixing the real problem when you find one, instead of trusting a root to handle it in the dark where you can't see what's really going on. I still keep a piece of horseradish root in the garden every year. My grandchildren like pulling it up, and I like the smell of it fresh out of the ground, same as I always did. But it stays in the garden now, on the plate where it belongs, next to a good piece of ham. It doesn't go down in the well no more. And our water's been tested clean for years running. That's the kind of proof I trust now.